Well, as promised, Brian, we are back. Brian, by
Mhm.
the way, it's called nextbigfuture.com
Mhm.
and Next Big Future, his YouTube channel. So
Mhm.
those would be two things you want to visit. But for today, Brian, we want to get back into 2025. This is part two. For those of you who didn't see part one, we talked about the hardware. We talked
Mhm.
about the cars. We talked about FSD, the impact of FSD, but not robotaxi. None of this is going to be about robotaxi. That's like on top of everything else. This is kind of the core business.
Yep,
So, Brian, I'd like to talk to you today about energy, one of your favorite things.
that's right.
One of, because
Yeah, yeah.
we could talk about, uh,
Mhm.
we could talk about semi trucks too. And I know that's
Mhm.
you and I both share a love of the semi truck. All
Mhm.
right, let's talk about doubling or more in energy next year.
Right.
All right.
So this was my insight, which we discussed before, which is looking at the aerial photo of the Shanghai Megapack factory. Um, there are three buildings. The
Mhm.
main building appears to be about 870,000 square feet.
Mhm.
This is a more detailed measurement done by one of my readers, where he, got a more precise measurement. So that means it's twice the square footage of Lathrop. Lathrop is at 440,000, so this one's 870. It's practically exactly double.
Wow.
So then the other two buildings there, the small building already being built, another 100,000 or uh, 50,000 square feet or something like that. 100,000, I think 100,000, 200,000. I know. So it's another small building, and then there'll be another long building to be built. Total, I think maybe 300,000 square feet from those other buildings. So you're getting into the range of triple the floor area
Right.
of Lathrop.
Right. So that's one thing. Now I saw Brian White did a story on that the other day. I didn't actually listen to it, unfortunately, so busy this week. But he was also suggesting a doubling, or that Shanghai would have the capacity to do two times what we're now doing in Lathrop. Now we've got
Mhm.
40 gigawatt hours in Lathrop. But right now, we've only been realizing about half of that on a 12-month trailing average. We're only really showing about half of that in terms of deployments and in
Mhm.
terms of what we're realizing on the books.
Yeah.
So even without Shanghai, as we catch up on that deployment and catch up on those booking or the what do you want to call it, the recognition is what that's the technical term for it from an accounting standpoint, the recognition on the profit and loss, we could be doubling next year just
Mhm.
from Lathrop.
Right. Yes,
Okay.
that's possible. Yeah. And then increasing the power walls by some level. Yes.
Yes, and of course, yeah, power walls are increasing like crazy, I think.
Mhm.
So the increase in Lathrop would also not include any potential for just getting better at it and being able
Mhm.
to maybe do better than 40 gigawatt hours,
Right.
which is
Right.
which is another possibility. Okay. So then we go over to Shanghai, and in Shanghai, we're talking about a building that might have or should have or looks like it's going to have double the capacity. And Elon had said in the earnings call last time, I think he had
Yeah.
said two to three times.
Right. Either two,
So
three times.
it was kind of an offhand comment, kind of like, yeah, well, two to three. He wasn't
Right.
wasn't like he was planning to say it, so it kind of just slipped out. So
Mhm.
that would fall in line with this speculation.
Right.
You and I have talked about the idea that Shanghai might ramp faster than Lathrop did because we have the learnings from Lathrop and because it's China.
Right.
Are
Yeah,
there
China just builds things faster, get things installed faster. They can make a shopping mall, a high rise, five times faster than we can do here.
right?
Right.
And all evidence would point to the fact that that Shanghai should start producing fourth quarter, maybe early first quarter next year. Is that right?
Right. They were 60% complete like a month ago
Right.
on the building. So then you could have the building complete as early as December.
Mhm.
And, if you had to do some other stuff inside, then maybe January you could start making product.
Right. And which has been what's been recommended, what's been suggested that they could do.
Mhm.
So the uh, also as they're building the building, and I know this is something else that the Chinese are really good at, but that Tesla's very good at, they'll be installing the production equipment even before the walls are all up.
Right.
So when they
Right.
when they put the last tile on the roof, there'll be a
Mhm.
lot of the production equipment that will already be in there ready to go. Okay, so we should also, so that would mean if we ramp faster, maybe by the end of the year, we're maybe getting up close to the 40 gigawatt hour run rate at the end of 1 year, or do you think it'd be faster than that?
So we got caught last time, a few years ago, predicting on Lathrop and thinking they would
Right,
get, ramped fully, and then they didn't,
right,
and they ramped only one line out of two.
right,
So instead of doing the 20 40 gigawatt hours per year, they're only doing ramping to 20, and then they do that thing. The counter against that kind of slow development in China is that now, one, the global situation for energy demand is far higher
right.
because of the AI data centers and that kind of stuff. China already has, terawatt of solar up in Mongolia and Tibet, right?
Right.
Because they build it out in these relatively unpopulated areas in the western part of the country.
Hmm.
So they already have the solar and wind that needs to have
The battery.
stored power because it's generating at the wrong time. They want to generate at a different time,
Hmm.
and a lot of that stuff is going to waste. So
Right.
by getting battery packs up there, they would have immediate benefit, and
Mhm.
the demand is immediate and large, can use the whole factory.
Right.
So and then not even to say that they're building, hundreds of gigawatts, 500 gigawatts a year of new power,
Hmm.
adding this to what we're doing here. So they have this huge demand and they're building stuff like crazy. Like they're building like
Right. Yes.
10,000 1 megawatt or 10 megawatt wind turbines or something like that someplace, right? Then popping a bunch of shipping container sized batteries is like nothing to them,
Right.
right? And so then you'd send it up from the rail or from cargo ships up. Like, so you here in Lathrop, you get them out, and then you're sending them over to, Nevada or Texas, something like that, and then whatever the utility there is, making the pad, turning it on a year later, whatever. China could say, okay, I get it out, 2 weeks to get it to where it needs to be. I already built the pad, I connect it, it's working in a week,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it could be in 3 weeks, it could be a bunch of these things, thousands of them. Whatever comes out the factory could then be immediately be used, right? So then that goes to, I could start up one line, and then next month I could start up the next line, and then because I've doubled the lines, I have four lines going, and then boom, within, you know, 5 to 6 months, I'm fully ramped at 80 gigawatt hours, right?
Wow.
So that is what could be the China surprise. There was a China surprise for Model 3 and
Right.
China surprise for Model Y, where, you know, all the Tesla Q bears were predicting, oh, it's going to be slow, it's going to be ramp, blah, blah, blah. And then because you have China speed, it's like, boom, it's out, right? So if we have China speed
Right.
on the Shanghai Megapack factory, both on the demand side, both on the installation side, and on the completion of the factory side, then going up to full capacity could be shockingly fast.
Right.
Just like, okay, we got fully ramped in Shanghai for Model Y in like 9 months, right?
Right.
So that was not what happened in Germany. It was not
Right.
ha what happened in
Austin.
Texas, Austin, right? And then this is a different demand thing. It's not like, oh, do we have demand for cars and, okay, individuals buying it, you know, and then China ha has some recession thing. There's no recession on the energy side.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. So in fact, I was reading the other day, maybe you can help me on this, is that even these nuclear facilities that they're putting in benefit from batteries as well, even though they are 24/7. They, easily increased or decreased the amount of energy you're outputting, that you still get into this problem of creating unused energy. And so the
mm,
batteries using arbitrage can help to improve the total value of the energy coming out of the nuclear facilities.
Right. So a nuclear plant has to pretty much run all out all the time, right? Because it doesn't, only some rare designs have any kind of like, I can power it down, come back up again.
Okay,
Most of them are not built that way.
I see.
And then the other thing would be that if you think about, your laptop or servers in a data center, right? They have these UPSs, universal power supplies, because I'm worried about the power coming into the thing, fluctuating and damaging electronics,
Right,
right? So there's a need for, big batteries to, handle fluctuations in power. They're designed to handle that, but then you have other buffering stuff like that. So there's value in using batteries to condition the power,
got it.
make sure it comes in 60 hertz and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I got it. Okay. All right. So what we're saying is then that a doubling of the energy storage sales for next year is like, duh. Like
Hmm.
it's not even going to be a contest.
Right.
That we might be looking at a tripling again, depending on all these bookkeeping issues, but we might
Mhm.
be looking at a tripling or even more of energy just in 2025 alone.
Right.
Is that
Right.
fair? Okay.
That's fair. Yeah. And then Elon, and then not only just had one statement about double and tripling from that thing, they've said energy should double and triple every year
Right.
for many years going forward.
Right.
Which, if that finally does happen, starting in 2025, right, then the the analysts have to put in a line item, big line item that they weren't really doing for energy,
Right.
and that the growth of that is suddenly huge. Oh,
Right.
you've gone from $3 billion a quarter to $10 billion a
Right.
quarter.
Right.
And then I can see, next year you're going to go to $30 billion a quarter, right?
Yes.
And then the profit that's a revenue. And then the profit's going from, just shy of 1 billion, 700 million to a quarter, so $2, $3 billion per year, up to $10 billion next year, and then up to $30 billion. So then that becomes an entirely new business that has insanely rapid growth that is and huge margins that they are not really right now is like 10% more of the company based on this. But
Yes.
this thing suddenly if you're at $10 billion, that's the entire company's profit this year.
Right.
And they're projecting almost no growth for 3, 4 years. They're saying, okay, you're gonna go from 2 million cars
Right.
to 2.5 million cars in 2026, 2027,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
So that's the consensus of
Right.
that stuff. And then they don't even break out energy. They're saying, oh
Right.
yeah, it's 10%. It's not, it's like nothing. They even like round it off. It's like it's zero, right? They just like slightly increase my margins on that stuff. So then if this actually does happen, it's a complete surprise shock to them,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about batteries. So
Mhm.
batteries, I have famously quoted somebody that I've never been able to find the quote. I quote him over and over and over again, but nobody knows who said it. I can't find it, which is the guy who invents the better battery is going to control the world.
Okay.
So, in this particular case, Elon is trying to invent the better battery, rapidly, potentially becoming certainly second to CATL, maybe still having to, BYD might still be ahead. We'll see. Samsung, but certainly a player in the battery field. Every evidence would be from not only the reporting of the specifics of what is being done with the batteries, but also from kind of the subtle hints. So a
Hmm.
recent subtle hint was, oh, we're going to double the capacity in Berlin to build 4680s or to build batteries. They didn't say 4680s, but to build batteries. So that was an evidence, an indication that Tesla is continuing to ramp, believes in themselves enough that they're asking for permits to double their original plan of 50 gigawatt hours to 100 gigawatt hours in Berlin. So in the 2025 period, I think we could probably just assume that maybe we can consistently turn out 100 gigawatts. Maybe it won't be a 100 gigawatt run rate on January 1st, but by the end of the year, it'll be more. So we'd be 100 gigawatts of 4680s out of Austin, average for the year. So total production for the year, which
Mhm.
would be, I don't know, 5 times as much as this year.
Mhm.
And that will get, and that CATL facility in Reno will be up and running. Once it's up and running, I doubt it'll take very long to ramp.
Mhm.
So we could be looking at another 40 gigawatt hours there.
Mhm.
So we could be talking about 140,000 gigawatt hours of domestic production by Tesla, not counting Cato Road, which will become which will become this 140,000 at 4,
140, 140
sorry,
gigawatt hour,
140,000,
140 gigawatt hour.
140 gigawatt hours at $45 a kilowatt hour from the US government in a check.
Mhm. Yeah, right.
I figured that out. It's $6.3 billion, Brian.
Yes, right.
If it's half that, if it was 3.5 billion next year,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, 3 point, whatever that would be, 3.15 next
Mhm.
year, it would be a lot.
Yes,
It'd be almost $1 billion a quarter just in
right.
IRA money. And that doesn't count whatever kind of IRA money we're getting from Panasonic because they're giving us part of their deal. And, there's
Mhm.
other little amounts here and there of the IRA money. So that would be significant.
Yes,
Is
yes, it
that
would.
is that within your feelings of reasonableness to you?
Um, I'm more on the lines of getting to 200 gigawatt hours
By next year? Okay.
by next year, end of next year.
And then,
In terms of like having the each of the lines fully ramped to the 25 gigawatt hours that they were talking about, and
right,
there's like at least 8 lines
right,
wherever in Texas, and that there should be this um, demand
right,
that you would be able to use them in the vehicles that you have
right,
to boost them, like um, loads of Cybertruck, and then and finally getting some semi in serious production, and then using them for the new vehicles or whatever other models that you have that you would then be able to use all those batteries, and that would because they're getting the 4680s, competitive on price with the other competitors. So then, it should also then start lowering costs by making your own vehicles because you're taking out 20-30% of the margin from the suppliers, right?
right,
When you do that, but you're still buying as many batteries as you can because you're
right,
trying
right.
to produce many vehicles. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that would be significant.
Yes.
And then, of course, what you just mentioned, the cost of goods goes down as well.
Mhm.
Uh, Now, the savings, the money from the IRA probably goes into cost of goods, so that's where we're gonna see it. But
Mhm.
as you point out, there'll be additional savings because the cost of the batteries will be less than we're paying from the suppliers.
Right.
Um, yeah. Okay. So, and that doesn't count next year. I'm not counting anything from the 500 gigawatt that Elon said he's going to build in Reno.
Right. And then the other thing for the when you're making your own batteries, I think there should be simplified, improved logistics and processes that I can just get them delivered in just the right way and all that kind of stuff. It'd be slightly smoother and perhaps more efficient, by a percent or two in terms of costs and other stuff. But like I'm able to coordinate better because it's my own company.
Right. And Indonesia reported this morning that they will begin shipping lithium to the United States to
Mhm.
Tesla. So we must be getting pretty close to starting to refine lithium down in Corpus Christi,
Mhm.
which should also reduce costs eventually. Maybe not next year. It might still be kind of expensive next year. We'll see what happens. And then
Mhm.
the dry cathode plant is apparently up and running and
Mhm.
doing well. So that also would eventually see a reduction in cost.
Yep. All good things.
All right, well, let's talk about robots.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to talk about selling any robots. I want to talk about what the impact might be on robots next year in
Mhm.
terms of the earnings for Tesla.
Mhm.
So again, this will show up in cost of goods. This is not something that's going to show up as a revenue item, a revenue stream. Now, maybe they would be smarter on all these things to create a different division and have the battery division sell the product to the car division or whatever, but that's not what they're doing, at least not yet. So Elon says 1,000 robots or more. Okay. I'm going to assume for fun that it's 1,000 average over the year.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So they will be contributing at minimum a value of 2 employees.
Okay.
Could be 4,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
And it could be more than 4 because they don't take breaks, they don't take lunch,
Hmm.
etc. But we'll go with 2. So
Hmm.
we'll figure them 2 shifts and
Hmm.
only the equal efficiency level,
Hmm.
not faster, not slower.
Hmm.
Even though some of the robots may be able to go faster,
Hmm.
some of them will actually be slower at first. So we'll just
Yeah.
figure exactly the same. So I think
Hmm.
that's conservative, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So, of course, there's also additional advantages that they have. We've talked about some of the advantages. There's no hiring, there's no firing, there's no HR problems, there's no having people come in and talk about their sex lives or any of that kind of stuff. There
Yeah.
no injuries, no theft.
I would have to push back against this because I think the R&D side of the Tesla bot, where
Yes,
you have programmers and
right.
technicians and that kind of thing, at the 1,000 level, it pretty close to offsets, I
You
think.
think
I
so?
think that even though you're going to employ thing you're just like like the Waymo spending $2 billion a year
Right.
to do your robotaxi, that kind of stuff, that the extra costs that you're doing to stand up this stuff, make production things, that those increased um, admin and operational capex things would then offset. And it's until you get to 15 to 30,000, maybe 50,000, where basically you're going to be going one to one against all
Employees.
the employees in your factory,
Mhm.
right? Then it's clear that it's going to be this huge benefit and more benefit from the fact that you could increase production,
Right.
right? That I can, get more lines going and then have fewer people. Then it's clear. At 15,000, I do that for one huge factory,
Mhm.
Shanghai or Austin or Fremont.
Mhm.
That would be, and then potentially do stuff in terms of like adjusting the efficiency of what I'm doing, getting up to the whole um, unbox process. Because the unbox process is built around Tesla bots,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like, okay, I'm going to have like standing around a card table, that's 4 people standing around a card table, is like they're standing around a component, standing around a washer dryer, right?
Sure.
A washer. That's the component, the module that I'm working on,
Mhm.
right? Then um, that gets the 30%, 50% increase in production, right? Where I go
Yes.
fully
Yes.
to that. And so we have to, I think, fully get the as much of the unbox process with the bots, where it's like I'm changing how I do things
Mhm.
enabled by this thing. It's just like for Costco, where Costco uses forklifts and everything about their process is forklifts, and they can get 2, 3x the efficiency
Right.
versus other places, right?
Sure.
So when I've adapted and not just you know minor improvements of like, okay, I have to go over there. It is saving something that I don't make those steps. It's constantly being fed over to me
Mhm.
because I made that 2% faster, right? The 2% faster is um, not as noticeable
Right. Right.
because things can go wrong, right? But if I change up what I'm doing, where I can get 30%, 50%,
Right.
now I've changed everything, which is what the entire everything gets revamped kind of approach that Elon had. He's not like trying to squeeze out 1, 2%. It's like, I land a starship and catch it in the booster, and then I'm gonna go fly 10 times more.
Right.
It's not like I'm going for a little thing. He's going for the home run.
Right.
He's
Right.
not trying to like, you know, get a walk, get a steal, like none of that crap. So
Okay. So you're saying to me that the all the kind of additional savings of HR, supervisors, hiring, firing, theft, all those kind of additional advantages. I think there was 24 items on somebody on my list or CERN's list, or between us, we
Mm.
had two lists. And so all
Yeah.
that additional savings will be kind of taken away, at least for the first year or two, by the fact that you've got all kinds of additional special needs that are going to be
Right.
coming. Okay. So we
Right.
just have the two shifts. I'm saying those are 20, what did I say? I got to get my numbers here. $25 an hour people.
Mm.
If they're $25 an hour people, when you add in Social Security, vacations, you get to $33. So if it's two of them, that's $66. And you're talking about 2,000 hours a year per employee. So that's $132,000 in savings per bot.
Yep.
If we have 1,000 bots average over the year, we're talking about $132 million in savings next year.
Yep. Yep.
Nobody's got that programmed into Teslas next year.
Right. Right. But if we're talking about doubling or tripling, quadrupling stuff because of
Right.
energy in cars and stuff like that, yeah, you wouldn't notice it. You wouldn't be able to break it down. Yeah.
Right.
It's nice to have.
Yes.
It's progressing, but
Right.
we're not the inflection point where it's like 15,000, 50,000
Right.
bots. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. So I just thought that was interesting. That's another 132 million. If it's
Mhm.
only 1,000 bots, and if it's only
Right.
two,
Right.
it could be 3,000 bots, and it could be triple that. And then the
Yeah.
next year it might be 20,000 bots, and then that becomes a real number.
Right.
Okay. By the way, speaking of that, as a sideline, uh, Scott Walter said the other day he thinks that they should start these bots working on the SNX lines
Hmm.
because he thinks it's only one shift.
Hmm.
Thinks it's a very slow line.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of handwork because they're not using any of the big cast aluminum parts.
Yeah.
So this would be something where the bots could really get in there and do a lot of wrench turning and stretching or moving around of wires and whatnot. And then
Hmm.
your goal would be to get it 100% by bot, and then you come out with a vehicle that is like a foundation series type thing, which is built by
Hmm.
Optimus.
Right. Right. That makes sense that they're have low capacity over there. They can tolerate any kind of issues and problems. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
All right, that might be a possibility then. All right, Brian. So what we're talking about now is overall between the 2 days is
Mhm.
it would seem like we're talking about an easy doubling of earnings next year.
Mhm.
You throw on top of that the IRA money, assuming it doesn't go away. I mean, in a Trump administration, that IRA money might completely evaporate. I tend to think it will get reduced. I think it's way too high. I think it's way too much, $45 a kilowatt hour. But I don't think it'll go away 100% because I think Elon will convince Trump that it is a strategic requirement, as opposed to the cars, that the battery development in the United States is a strategic need, and that at least for now, we should encourage maximum battery production in the US.
I think that replacing and modifying that is not a top priority for the new administration. That if there was, assuming that Trump gets in, that of course if Harris does, then it doesn't change at all. But if Trump gets in there, that he has a bunch of other priorities around the border, military, many other things that have to be addressed well before that. I hope that they would get, more, um, bills and stuff written and ready to go, but they have never demonstrated that before, where they have said, okay, I can get I got elected in November, I've got bills all written and I got them all ready to fire up and send
Right.
them in. I'm not sure in any first year, even kind of a second term where you've suddenly gotten a bunch of things in the queue. And then it also depend upon getting substantial majorities in
Right.
the House and Senate.
Right.
That if you're at 51 in the Senate, oh, or at, especially you're at 50, or if you're at, just a bare margin in the House,
Yeah.
then you're not getting, because then you got all these, um, you know, people who may not be on board with your agenda, and then
Right.
you have to compromise. If you get to, a 20 vote margin in the House and you get to a 5 vote margin in the Senate, now you can try and move at a pace
Right.
because you can stand, three defections in the Senate
And
and still pass your bill.
but we know that's not going to happen. We'd be happy if it ends up being 52-48.
Right. And
Yeah.
then if you don't even win the House,
Yeah.
then you're not even introducing bills,
Right.
and
Right.
then it wouldn't happen at all. Trump could get in, he could have the Senate, and then if he doesn't have the House, then um, all bills originate in the House,
Right. Right.
right? So then it would basically be, um, yeah, in terms of changing bills, be nothing until in the midterm where
Let
it
me
possibly
cor-
could
let me
change.
let me let me correct you. I believe all spending bills start in the House.
All
I
spending bills
think
start off.
other than spending bills, they can start either direction. But
Right,
your point is still well taken. It does appear, I think there's every good reason to believe that the Republicans will win the House and maybe the Senate, regardless of who gets the presidency. So that is certainly good news for those of us who feel
right,
that way.
right, right. So, but it just there's you know, the U.S. government is not an efficient thing.
No.
So a lot of stuff takes a bunch of time. Like even
Right.
getting a regular annual budget in
Yeah.
there, they never seem to be able to do it. So assuming, yeah, so I would not expect much to happen next year in that regard. And if it does happen, it would be a lower priority later. It'd have to be second term because they would be worried about, in the midterm they could lose their because typically you lose
Yeah.
seats. And
Yeah.
then once you do that, then again, if you had the House and suddenly you lose it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Then again, stuff stops happening.
Right.
So you have to like get as much done on high priority, fix the government type
Yeah.
things as
Right.
opposed to there's some economic stuff you want to get done, but it would yeah, so I would expect that in the second year.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Well, anyway, I'm thinking, by the way, Brian, I might end up doing kind of a formal version of what we
Mhm.
just discussed,
Sure.
letting you guys know out there that I might try to do something with some charts and graphs and all that kind of stuff. We'll
Mhm.
see. But I think, let me know in the comments below if you think I need to do that, or if you think this kind of the back of the napkin kind of thing was if is sufficient for now. Anyway, because I don't want to go to the trouble if you guys don't need it. All right. So just let me know in the comments. All right. Thanks, Brian. Again, visit him next big future wherever he is. It's always going to be next big future for Brian. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.
Thank you.